Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're all doing well. So today's video is going to be one that is long overdue and really important to me. Today's video is all about my postpartum depression journey and kind of an update on where my head's been at, what my experience was like after having my second baby. Some of you guys have been around since I was postpartum with my first child, and I put out a postpartum depression video at that time that I heard was so helpful to so many of you. If you haven't seen it, I'll link it up here. That video I made when I was really kind of coming out of the thick of it with my first child, and I'll talk a little bit about my first experience with postpartum depression in today's video, but I also wanted to just update you on what it was like the second time around. Yes, I did experience it the second time as well, and also just what it's been like in 2020. I think my hope is that this video is one where you will leave feeling supported and not alone, and understand that whatever you're going through and whatever you're thinking and feeling postpartum or depression in general, it's okay. It is, mental health needs to be viewed just as essential and important as physical health. And so I hope that today's conversation sort of just normalizes the idea of postpartum depression and also helps you guys feel really supported in wherever you're at. I am an open book. I'm super transparent about my journey with depression in general, even before I had kids, and then especially after I've had kids. And I'm a big advocate for talking about mental health and normalizing it. I don't have an agenda for today's video. I've got like a couple key bullet points I want to hit, but this is going to be chatty. It may be rambly. If you're not somebody who likes that kind of thing, then you can go ahead and click out now. I'm going to go ahead and save you the time. But I think this is a topic that I really just wanted to sort of like walk you through my experience and keep it, I don't know, authentic and not super scripted, if that makes sense. So first, starting with my first son, when I had him, I did have postpartum depression. I've battled with depression on and off my entire life. It's hereditary for me. It runs in my family. I grew up knowing it was kind of a part of me and something I would experience. I think that there's a common misconception with depression in general that it's just like an overwhelming sad feeling, and that's true, but it can be crippling. It can be paralyzing. It can prevent you from doing normal things that you typically do. It can prevent you from finding motivation and energy and just for the everyday things, to shower, to eat food, to get up off the couch, to care about anything. And when I had postpartum depression the first time around, it definitely felt like that, but it also felt worse than any other depression I felt in my entire life. And it was so deep and so intense. You might be able to hear my kids screaming and giggling downstairs because they're with their dad down there, but while I'm like talking about depression in here. But it was so deep and so intense that I would literally fall to the floor crying. I would feel purposeless and hopeless, and like I just was, I don't know. And it's so weird when you're postpartum because you have this new beautiful baby that you love so much that you would literally you would die for, you would take a bullet for, but you know, you're searching for purpose and for meaning and to feel validated. And oftentimes we feel like we're such a mess that maybe these babies would be better off without us. And like we birthed them and we brought them into the world, but like, especially as they get older, it's like, okay, they're not a newborn anymore. Do they even really need me? Do they even care? You know, they don't even know me yet. You start to have these irrational thoughts like that. And when I started to feel like I didn't know if I could go on, or like I didn't know if I was serving my kids or my family, I started to feel like people wouldn't miss me if I wasn't around, and like I just was in a really dark place, and that's when I wanted to get help. I noticed postpartum depression hit me about 7 weeks postpartum with my first, and I think the reason why it hit me so late, typically they say that if you are experiencing kind of the baby blues, you often hear about that, the baby blues, that's usually the first 2 weeks after you have a baby. Anything 2 weeks, 2 to 4 weeks and later is oftentimes postpartum depression. Also, I should have said this in the beginning, but I am not a doctor or registered anything. I'm just a normal mama who has gone through this. So, you know, definitely consult with your doctor for anything if you are feeling any of these symptoms. I'm just sharing my experience as a fellow human being. But from the research I've done, it's kind of like 2 to 4 weeks and on is viewed as postpartum depression. I think it hit me later because my first 6 weeks postpartum with my first, we had visitors in and out. We had a lot of family visiting, and I also experimented with the mini pill. I went on at my 6-week postpartum appointment. I wanted birth control and they put me on the mini pill because I was breastfeeding, and it sent my hormones for a freaking loop. I will never try it again. Not to say there's anything wrong with it specifically, but for me and my body, it just didn't work. And so that was when I felt at my lowest. And after about a week and a half on the pill, I went off of it and didn't look back. So I felt like my depression eased up postpartum, honestly, when I went back to work. When I was about 4 months postpartum, I went back to work, and I think having that structure, having that distraction, it just sort of made it ease up on me. And that's just my experience. That's just what I noticed. So the second time around, I knew I was kind of prone to it after my first experience with postpartum depression. And I want to be really mindful to say the entire thing. You know, I think people refer to postpartum depression, they often refer to it as postpartum. And the reality is postpartum is a very, very umbrella term that really houses the physical recovery, the mental recovery, the emotional state you're in, the whole 4th trimester after you have a baby. That is postpartum. Postpartum means so much. And I think society calls postpartum depression, they refer to that as postpartum because they just don't know any better. And also sometimes it's easier to say that, right? So I want to get people really comfortable saying the full term, talking about depression, because yes, it exists and it can be deadly. So anyways, side rant. Anyways, that was my experience with postpartum depression the first time around. I knew I was kind of prone to it. I knew I would likely experience it the second time as well when I got pregnant the second time. So I kind of took steps to prepare myself. Both times with both kids, I did placenta encapsulation, which there's not actually scientific data that backs that helping, but supposedly it helps balance your hormones, it helps replace your body or replace nutrients in your body that you lose when you give birth to the placenta. So I had it encapsulated, I had tinctures made, I've showed those in vlogs, and I really do think they helped. I will do it for every child I have because I do think it helps a lot, but in my experience, it can only do so much because I also have a chemical thing going on as well. But that was something I did myself I prepared. I also really made sure to focus and hone in on the conversation with the people who come to talk to you about postpartum depression in the hospital. So my experience the first time around is that when you let them know, when you have a baby and you let them know, like, yes, I have experience with depression, I've grown up with it, they will likely send somebody to your room, to a social worker or someone like that, to have a conversation with you about what postpartum depression looks like. And my experience from having the first baby is that during that time after you have a baby, you are in such a fog. You know, you're caring for a newborn, you're physically recovering, you have so much going on that I wasn't even aware of what she was saying to me. I don't remember a single thing she said. They gave me a pamphlet and sent me on my way. And, you know, at your 6-week postpartum appointment, they ask you all these questions in a questionnaire about depression and if you're feeling it, but the questions are targeted. The questions are written in a way that they could honestly apply to any woman, whether she's experiencing depression or not, or whether she has kids or not. When you first have a baby, especially your first baby, it is such a whirlwind. You're coming down off birthing a human being, like you've literally got this like adrenaline rush you're coming down from, on top of all of the chaos of having a little human being in the room with you. Or if you gave birth this year, then, you know, navigating COVID and the pandemic on top of that, it's just you're not as mentally present as I think, you know, we would like to be. And so for me, when she came in the room to talk to me, she had all the best intentions, but I just don't remember anything she said. I really listened, I paid attention, but it was like in one ear and out the other because there was so much going on. And, you know, she gave a pamphlet that I ended up losing. Like, and I realize a lot of this is, you know, me as well, not like, this is my responsibility, so I'm not blaming them at all, but I just think when it comes to preparing yourself, a quick conversation with a social worker immediately after you deliver a baby isn't gonna solve everything and prepare you as much as we would like it to. So with my second, I knew that they would have that conversation with me. And it was a phone call because it was during COVID times. It was a phone call instead of an in-person visit, but I tried really hard to focus on what she was saying, to make sure I was present, to take notes. I had Jordan hold the baby while I had that phone conversation because like I really wanted to be aware, and it was helpful. I definitely remember more, I retained more, but the depression still came. And when I started to notice these signs the second time around, I reached out to get help sooner. So this time around 2-3 weeks postpartum, I started to feel that like lethargic feeling, that lack of motivation. I was sad all the time. I was crying all the time for, reasons I couldn't think of or give. I started to feel that hopeless feeling. I started to feel purposeless. I started to feel unworthy and unwanted. And so I reached out to my doctor and I got help, and I actually got put on medication this time around. So to give you guys a little bit of background, I know I'm kind of going around in circles here. After my first, I didn't want to do antidepressants because I've been on and off antidepressants my whole life. I'm really familiar with them, and honestly, I didn't know if it was bad enough to need them, and it just wasn't the right fit for me at the time. I'm the type of person where I think the idea of going on medication is an extremely personal decision. I will never sit here and tell you to go on meds or to go off your meds. I will never tell you to do either one of those things. It is extremely personal to you. You gotta do what you gotta do. After I came out with my first postpartum depression video, I was flooded with messages from people telling me to reconsider and to go on medication. And I know they were so well-intentioned, but it's really easy to say that without knowing someone's entire life history of medication. And so for that reason, not even just because of the idea of antidepressants or meds, or like, I'm not against it at all. I just didn't want to go on them at the time, like plain and simple. And I'm glad I didn't. It was the right decision for me. This time around though, this time around I was more open to the idea. I haven't been on medication in a few years, and I felt like I needed the additional support, especially going through COVID and especially not having any family nearby. So I went on Prozac because that is something you can have while breastfeeding, and it like literally one dose. I don't know if it was a placebo effect or what, but one dose and I started to feel better. And I took it for a few weeks. What happened for me though, again, just reacting to my body, is that I have a natural hand tremor. You guys will probably, if you've been around, you've probably noticed it in my videos. It's just a hereditary, like all natural thing. It's just part of my DNA. Like my hands shake a little bit, and medication and caffeine make it worse. So when I went on Prozac, my hands became so incredibly shaky. I showed in one of my vlogs, I dropped a bowl and it shattered, and I showed it in that video, but that happened like 8 times. Like things would just fly out of my hands. I couldn't hold on to things steadily. My hands were so incredibly shaky that I started receiving so many messages about it on videos that it's like my postpartum depression was cleared up, but now I was depressed because I was kind of getting bullied over my shaky hands because they were not very nice messages, like all the time. So to me, because of the side effects, not just because of the messages I was getting, but because like I physically couldn't hold things and it was interfering with my motor function, it felt like. Because of that, I went off of the Prozac, and I honestly didn't notice a difference in my emotions after going off of it. Like I felt good on it, I felt good off of it. I think I just needed it for those few weeks to kind of get me through the thick of the postpartum feeling this time around, the postpartum depression. And honestly, after that, I felt good. What I've noticed my second time around, and I think this is more so a situational circumstance and partly hormones, I don't really know, I'm trying to figure it out, but I've noticed I've dealt with more anxiety this time than the first time. And I always heard about postpartum anxiety. I didn't really know what it was like. I have family who's dealt with it. I've had friends who have dealt with it. And for me this time, it manifests in ways where I have like really kind of irrational and illogical fears. Like if we are walking to the park and I see a car that is like with somebody sitting in it, I will envision that person getting out and shooting all of us. And like things like that. Like, or if Jordan takes Christian for a walk and I don't hear from them for like half an hour, I'm envisioning the absolute worst happening. And I think part of that is anxiety from 2020, anxiety from the media, and part of it is like postpartum hormones. I don't really know, but that's something that I didn't experience the first time around. And so, you know, in part of sharing my story, I want to bring to light that postpartum depression is real, postpartum anxiety is real, and you may feel one or both of them, and it doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means you need a little bit more support. So after I went off the Prozac this time around, I was feeling good for a little while, and then the last 2 months have been the hardest of my entire life. Like, not only, you know, and a lot of it, I sit here and I go back and forth thinking like, what all is postpartum? What all is 2020? What all is situations I can't control leading me to feel this way? And ultimately that's what it always comes back to. It's that it's me feeling out of control, and that's what's causing my anxiety. But in these last few months, to give you a little bit of background, in June, I lost my job while I was on maternity leave. I lost it midway through. A bunch of people in my company got laid off. So it was not just me. There was a massive, massive layoff at my company, and which had a lot of emotions and falling out in that way. But so lost my job in June. In September, we had an immediate family member diagnosed with stage 3 cancer. And a week later, like to the day, a week later, we lost a close friend to depression. And that's just in the last couple weeks. So we've gone through a lot. My husband also left his company and started a new business venture at this time. And so we both have these career changes. We have a new baby at home. We have no family nearby. Nobody can visit us. We're still semi on lockdown because of COVID. And we lost a friend, and we have a sick family member. So we have a lot going on right now. Even before the news about our family, even just with the job changes, we both have been feeling really out of control. So I actually started therapy this time around. I tried therapy my first time with postpartum depression. That was when Christian was like 10 months old. I tried therapy, and I went a couple times, and I ended up getting unsolicited sleep training advice from my therapist when I was there to talk about other stuff. And I was just like, you know what? This is not a good fit. I've gone to therapy and counseling several times throughout my life, and I've never really found the right fit. To me, a therapist is kind of like a hairstylist, where like you have to find somebody that you just click with, that just like gets your hair, that just understands what you're looking for, can take direction, and like give you what you need at the same time. And I've never found that. So, but in the last few weeks, I started going to therapy. I actually started, this is going to sound a little salesy. It's not intended to, but I'm just trying to share with you guys what I'm doing and what's working for me. So I actually started using BetterHelp. And I shared on my podcast, if you listen to our podcast, it's Zapo Chats, but I shared on the podcast that I hit rock bottom, what felt like rock bottom this time around. And I confronted Jordan, my husband, and I was like, hey, I feel like I need therapy. Like, I just need somebody to talk to. I have all these pent up emotions. I feel like I can't control anything. I feel like I'm drowning over here in my own mental state, and I've got to get it out, and I've got to work through some of it. And I think I need someone to talk to, and I'm going to start looking. And he was super supportive of it. And literally the next day, the BetterHelp people reached out to me about a partnership. So to me, I took that as fate. That was in control. That was something higher than me that was putting that in my hands. And so I started going to therapy through BetterHelp, and I've been doing it for 7 or 8 weeks now, and it's been life-changing. I will say Jordan signed up for it and has yet to find the right fit for him. He hasn't had quite as smooth of an experience as I have. But for me, I got matched with somebody that has really helped me, and those sessions, just having somebody to talk to, has helped me a lot. So this video is not about them, so I'm not going to go too far into it, but I do have a link for them in the description box if you are looking for someone to talk to and you want to try something like that out. It's all virtual. I could do a whole video on it in more detail if you would like. But that link is an affiliate link, but it will give you 10% off if you'd like to sign up. So that is going to be in the description box of my videos from here on out, because I want to feel like I'm doing something to really help this cause. And oh God, I want to make a whole video on grief, because I've never really dealt with grief this way before. But after losing our friend to mental health issues, it's just horrifying where it can lead if we don't support one another. And I've really been exploring ways I can give back and try to feel like I'm making an impact in this area, because it's just one of those things, again, that's having me feel out of control. And so I'm hoping this video is one of those ways. I'm hoping making this video helps brighten someone's day, helps somebody feel supported, helps tell you guys like you're worthy, you're wanted, you are loved more than you know. Don't give up, keep fighting. Mental health is so serious, and it's a battle the same way physical health is, and it's not talked about enough, and it's not supported enough, even by our health industry, even by our hospitals. It's not supported and prepared for enough. And so I want to do my part to try and do that. And so I'm hoping this video does this. I've actually been contacting my hospital and talking to my therapist and brainstorming ways I can create my own either platform or group counseling session or support group, or I contacted my hospital to try to see if I could actually become a speaker and like share my story with pregnant women and try and prepare them and help them understand what it looks like. And I was shot down kind of, but I'm hoping, by providing that BetterHelp link in all of my description boxes, like if it helps one person sign up and feel like they've got someone to talk to, you never know when someone might come across it. So if you guys see that in my description boxes from now on, that's why. It's just always going to live there. Lately I've been thinking a lot about this and how postpartum depression is talked about once we're in it, but like there's not enough given to pregnant women, and especially first-time moms. There's not enough resources given to them in advance to potentially prevent it or help them feel like they're not alone and help them feel like they're normal and it is 100% okay, and like let's just get you the support you need. I was talking to my therapist actually about it, and she was asking me like, hey, did you take classes when you were pregnant, and did any of them talk about postpartum depression? And I told her I took every single class that the hospital offered when I was pregnant. I took like newborn basics, I took the newborn CPR, I took the labor and delivery classes, I took a C-section class, I learned all about how to get a baby doll dressed. But in none of the classes that I took a breastfeeding class, and none of the classes I took did they talk about postpartum depression and how to actually look for signs and how to actually reach out for help and resources that you could find and what to do and what to look for and to know statistics on it. There's no education on it. And so what ends up happening is you have this baby, and then you just deal with this flood of hormones and emotions and confusing thoughts and feelings, and also running on very little sleep and breastfeeding all the time potentially, or balancing visitors in and out, and you feel helpless and you feel alone and you feel like you're the only one going through it, when that's the furthest thing from the case. But if we could just help women understand before it even gets to that point, if we could help them understand that like it happens, and if it happens, it's okay, we've got your back, and here's what we're gonna do. And so, long story short, like that's kind of my passion project right now. And I feel like after losing my friend, I like can't even say it without crying, but knowing how low I felt at certain times, and then seeing someone I love go through that and more, and seeing what it's like when they're gone is like, I feel called now more than ever. Like, I feel like for the first time, I feel really called to do something about it. And so I'm going to keep sharing. I'm going to keep talking about it. I'm going to keep, I got shot down by one hospital. It doesn't mean I couldn't speak elsewhere. If you guys know of any way I could make an impact or anywhere where I could potentially speak or share, let me know. Cause like, I just want people to know that, like, I think I'm somebody who I look like I have it together on the outside. I often get asked, like, how do you do everything? How do you find energy for everything? How do you keep everything together? And I don't. Like, I struggle on the inside often. And that's what I want to share is, like, it's a battle that you might not know people are fighting. And it's okay. Like, we'll all get through it together. But it's okay. And if you're going through that, there's nothing wrong with you. You just need a little bit more support and encouragement. I also noticed, recently we put out a podcast episode all about mental health, and it's an hour-long episode where I really opened up about my my depression experience. Jordan opened up about his anxiety experiences, and I will tell you that podcast episode had significantly less listens than any other episode we've made. It is the lowest, analytically, it is the lowest listened to episode. And I was actually kind of shocked to see that. And what it made me realize is that mental health is something that people don't want to hear about. And that's not okay. Like, I think if you're watching this video, you want to hear about it, obviously. If you've made it this far, you want to hear about it, and I applaud you, and I thank you so much for that. And I just want to encourage you to continue sharing with other people too, because I think there's a large portion of the world that assumes mental health is only related to people with schizophrenia or severe bipolar disorder, or, people who have issues that, maybe they can't come back from. But we don't talk about how mental health, first of all, mental health is something everybody has. Whether you are the most healthy human being or not, you've got physical health and you've got mental health. I think the mental health aspect is just not talked about, and it's not acknowledged, and it's not viewed in the ways it needs to be viewed. And I think aside from the fact that it's not recognized, people assume if they're not struggling, then they don't want to hear about it because it's kind of a downer, Like, I've seen people talk to influencers that way on Instagram, like in the comments and stuff, to be like, God, why are your posts always so sad, when they're just opening up about how they're feeling? And stuff like that prevents women from feeling like they can talk about it. So, I don't really have a solution in this moment, but I just want you to know I'm committed to doing more about it. I'm committed to keeping this conversation going. I've seen how bad it can get, and I don't want that for anybody, and it doesn't have to get there. And I think about myself and how I felt, and like how, it's how I've heard other people feel. And just know, if you are tired as hell and you can't find time to shower, and you feel like you're not getting enough help and support, and you want to cry all of the time and throw things or yell or, sit on the floor and collapse to the ground crying, just know that's not just you. You are not the only one who has felt that way. I've felt that way. People I love have felt that way. And it's okay to reach out and get help. It's okay to say, I'm not okay. There is nothing wrong. You are strong for saying you're not okay. And it does get better. Like, if there's anything I want to leave you with, it's just that it does get better. I've been at that point where, like, I felt like I couldn't go on, or felt like I would be unworthy of, I was having thoughts of, like, awful thoughts. And it gets better when you share openly, when you look for help, when you seek out chances to get that support. Sometimes you just got to go get that support you need, and then when you do, it gets better. And I really just want to, like, leave you guys with that. Know that if you're struggling, there are brighter days ahead. I'm not gonna say there's a light at the end of the tunnel, because that phrase has become kind of cryptic for me now, but there are brighter days ahead. There are better days ahead. Every single hardship I've gone through in my life, which there are many more that I haven't opened up about on this channel, believe it or not, but every single one has led me to something, has led me to a point where I've come out stronger, and has led me to good, and has led me to better days where, you know, if you're having trouble even smiling right now, just know eventually you will laugh. You will laugh so hard that you can't breathe. You will have joyous moments, and that feeling of fulfillment again. It's just sometimes you really got to get through this sticky, tough, muddy part to get to the other side. And it doesn't mean it's not there. It just means you're in the thick of it now, that this is the period that will make you stronger. I know I kind of rambled a lot. I think those are all the points I wanted to hit. If you guys have any questions, leave them in the comment section. I'm happy to answer them. I'm also happy to do like a part 2 of this. If there's anything you would like me to hear from, or if there's anything you would like me to explain more, or anything that you think I could cover more, please let me know, and I'm happy to do a part 2. Like I said, I feel really passionately about just continuing this conversation, and I just want you to know, like, I'm somebody who, I don't judge. We all got to do what we got to do. Medication, no medication. Therapy, no therapy. Family, no family. Take care of yourself. That's all you can do. All you can do is take care of yourself. And I'm going to think of ways in future videos I can put out to, you know, help, like ways to get out of a funk, ways to improve your mental health, things like that. Because I do think it's really important. But in the meantime, some things that help me are therapy, working out, like exercise, getting outdoors, get out of your house, even just go for a walk, even just sit in your driveway. If you can't go for a walk, sit on your front step. Breathe some fresh air, change up your scenery, and lean on the people you love, because you are loved so much more than you realize. And people around you want to help, but they don't know they need to help unless you tell them. So reach out and be open with it. And yeah, I hope this was helpful. Hang in there. This is an extreme, crazy year to be going through any of this, but you know, I hope this video sticks around and is helpful for anybody, and I'll try and put some resources in the description box for you guys as well. Thank you so much for watching. I truly appreciate your support, the positivity you guys send my way, the encouragement to leave this space so I can be this open and vulnerable with you. Just, it means the world. And thank you guys for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.